targeting them. If you say in your head, like, this isn't cold, this is a very warm lead to me because I've done my research, I know what they want, I'm reading what they want, I can see their company numbers, and their company goal is to expand their B2B business this year, and I can help them. Therefore, alter everything to be specific to that prospect. So I find myself most successful when I have the information and I just word that correctly.
Awesome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of It Is What It Is podcast. I'm talking about the best podcast. I like to coin it as business-tainment, not left. That's my left hand, not right. As I'm seeing it on screen and it looks backwards, just life. This is an amazing episode with an amazing leader. We're going to come down to the nitty-gritty about sales and just kind of where it's going and the nuances and the international landscape. And I'm so excited to have this guest on today. But you know what you got to do if you want to keep seeing amazing leaders, amazing content. There's a few things you got to do, y'all. Help a brother out. You got to subscribe to the YouTube page, like, share, comment, subscribe. YouTube at CV space K. That's Cody Vernon space K. That's Kelly, so if you know what it means. Also, where the best supplements are. www.cvnkglobal.store. I have with me right now Superpowers, one of the hottest pre-workouts on the market. We have the vegan proteins, BCAAs, all the good stuff. Go to www.cvnkglobal.store, Instagram at CVMK33, Instagram also on the business page of CVMK_global, as you're seeing a recurring theme. TikTok, CVMK Global, no underscore. Connect with me there. We look forward to hearing from you. And with that being said, I want to introduce this guest. Now, I have to give shout out to my boy Travis. I want to, give him his props. That man is doing amazing things. Real friend, just amazing leader in the space. Had this guest on. I was like, I gotta reach out. I really think she's changing the landscape of sales. And with that being said, I want to introduce you to Shannon Monrose. Shannon, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me, Cody. It's been a long time coming.
True enough. So Shannon, just for the audience's sake, if you could just give a little brief, bio of who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, so I work in the tech industry. I'm currently an SDR/BDR in a very well put together business intelligence company. And I'm trying to, get people interested in being an SDR and showing them the easiness of doing it and the funness and just an exciting place to work, I reckon. So that's a bit about me.
Cool. So first question, we talk about SDR, sales development reps, right? We talk about trying to create this atmosphere that draws talent, right? But you hear all the terrible stuff. I work in sales, and so I know I know the full landscape, but why have you, and I'm always interested, and I always start out every interview with why did you go into sales?
I feel like a lot of people may say this. It was an accident. I got into sales accidentally. I was doing like an internship when I was 16, just turning 17 for another tech company. And, I started there a year doing like business admin. It wasn't really that. It was full on client success, account management. So that's what got me into sales. What made me stay in sales was the knowledge you got from speaking to people. Like that was my university days, basically just taking on all of the knowledge from the C-level people I was speaking with. And then another good factor was the money. It was good. It was attractive. It kept you on your feet a lot. And I'm quite a resilient character, and you need that in sales. And it made me stay there. So I've not looked back since.
That is interesting. I will say for myself, I think true sales professionals get into it by mistake. I don't think anybody wakes up and be like, I think I want to sell something today. It's for whatever reason, things align and you find yourself in this company and it's like, how the heck did I get there? But the cool thing is, if you're resilient and you kind of have the talent and I won't say the makeup, but the drive,
Yeah.
right? To want to be successful, you start realizing like I can survive in this climate. And it just kind of happens that way. Look, I look forward. We're going to have some amazing questions lined up, but we got to take a word from our sponsors.
Let's do it.
There's a hero in all of us waiting to be unleashed. All it takes is just that one last push. Activate the hero within with CVMK Global Supplements. All natural, steroid free, designed to enhance performance, build muscle, and increase energy. You are unstoppable. You can do this. Become your own hero at www.cvmkglobal.store.
Awesome, man. We're back. Y'all go to www.cvmkglobal.store. Look how cool it is. That could be you. Be your own hero. Unlock the potential within. And so, there are interesting evolutions, I think, that is happening within business as a whole. One of the cool things is the world is getting smaller with the advent of technology. All of a sudden it doesn't matter where you live. You could be interacting with somebody in the UK like yourself, right? Or, you could go national, international. Tell me about, before we get into kind of the organizational cultures and shiftings, what is the international landscape for sales reps? And, and then I'll kind of throw in kind of how this US and see if there's some synergy there.
Yeah. So we are we have all territories basically. So we are kind of pushed to sell to US. Is that kind of the question you're asking? Yeah. So the US, there's a lot of money in tech, and that's where the buyers are. It's a lot of time. If it's a US company, they've got UK divisions. The decision makers always in the US. So we are promoted or pushed to target US. England as well. Like, of course, you want to start there. You want to build your name in your country first and foremost. Test the product, get product feedback. But the way we operate is, of course, timing difference, slightly different. Sometimes I might work US hours. So that'd be like 11 p.m. To 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Mm-hmm. As long as you are able to adapt, like especially in the UK, you can still be successful internationally, which we've seen much success. We go to networking events in the US, and so we've just come back from 3 inbound Tasta and Dreamforce. And the way we operate over there is the exact same, just different internationally, basically. So I don't see a big issue kind of selling internationally as well. It's very straightforward as it would be to the UK. Other territories, slightly different actually, like Japan, Australia. It's always time difference. It's Asia, sorry, Kashgar is quite small there, but it's a bit of time difference, being able to call at the right time and then set up a follow-up meeting for the correct timing. That's where a bit of trickiness comes. But with the market that's most attractive to us right now, we're coping. It's working well. I think we may need to adjust slightly with, our working hours and what we can commit to. But that's for like cold calling days. We'll stay later because we want to get everyone. So as long as you're able to commit to that, it's a good place to start.
That makes a lot of sense. I think for us, it's crazy you mentioned that that's where all the buyers are. And I know I agree with you, 60-70%.
Yeah.
I think America has this, not veil, but this kind of guise that, all the power decisions are made here. Yeah. Maybe, or traditionally so, right? What I'm learning is that, what's crazy is, especially as a company evolves and it expands, a lot of your decision makers, things are very siloed. So there might just be a US, branch. It'd be the same company, but they kind of handle all the operations and 2 different, PLMs, profit and loss statements, and some technology also varies. But as business expands, there's this push really into this international space because the US is no longer the voice of truth.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's fair. And I'm an American. I'm a proud American. It's not like it's saying, oh, yeah, no. So don't, if you take this like, what do you mean it's not the voice? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the U.S. is not the only, horse in the race. There are other economies that are just as developed, if not more. Japan being one of them, China being a huge one, United Kingdom, being really on par, I would say, with the U.S. as a whole. And then when you get outside the United Kingdom, Germany, like hey, people sleep on Germany. Like Germany is like this powerhouse, and when you start realizing that you're right, tackling business on a global landscape is a real thing. I have to sometimes get up super early because you guys are 7 hours ahead, and like my meetings will be like 6, 5 in the morning, and it'll be like 1, 2 p.m. over there, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm still asleep. Caffeine has hit the system, I still got the frog in the voice, and it's so interesting learning that wow, how similar we are, which I think is needed, and then wow, how different expectations are, and what I mean by that, like I would say. And this is just me, international businesses are more inclusive.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
100%. They are. Some are difficult to sell to because if you've chosen them, like if they get a cold call, like hell no, it's like absolutely not. But if they have a vendor that they're interested in, they will pursue that vendor. So a lot of the time, if you're introducing a new product to them, they already know about the space and they've decided whether they wanted to purchase already or not, and most likely reviewed all vendors. So like Asia, they're super difficult. They are very close knitted and they've got security, loads of like security and legal and kind of what you can do and what you can see with their data. And a lot of these tech companies, they integrate with their systems and their Gmail and their Salesforce or HubSpot. And that's where like I find a lot of blocking is kind of legal requirements and the security side of things. Yeah. So I find that a lot in the US, Germany, very much so. And Asia.
No, I agree. I think the legal requirements is like you need an NDA just to even start the conversation. It's like, man, we haven't even did a proper discovery call. You signed this before we get, but it's so true. What do you, because I want to take it before we start getting into sales methodology, right? I really want to talk about the personal experience, then leading into sales methodology, because there's still this, and I hate to say it, but I'm gonna just say it. There's still this glass ceiling, as a rep. Sometimes I always joke and say, man, I like dealing with companies that really have diversity. And then I like dealing with international companies because when I call them, when I meet with them, there isn't a shock, like, and I've been on it. I've been on the Zoom calls, and it's like, you can tell if somebody's comfortable speaking to a person of color. Like, you can honestly see it. Like, hey, look, I know it's a little uncomfortable for you. I'm going to be, it's not going to be that bad. I'm telling you, just be easy, and the relatability aspect, and they try to tell me something that I'm like, that has nothing to do with, it's funny. Like, they'll be like, well, I went to college with this black guy one time. I'm like, whoa, that's great for you. But, what for you, what has been, because like, I don't live over there, right? Like, I don't really know. I'm gonna be honest with you, as an American, and I'll say this, there is a lot of ignorance, not because Americans are, but because I think we're taught American exceptionalism is the gold standard, and therefore it kind of demeans the value of other countries and their landscape and how they affect just the world and its history, right? So like you get taught American history as like, the ultimate standard of everything, and then everything else kind of falls down. So even with our partners over across the pond in the UK, what we're taught is, well, we got the American Revolution, we broke free from King Henry, what I'm saying, like, like, and then they just unfortunately lost their queen, and like we don't really know. I mean, outside of like what we see on Netflix, we really don't know. What's up? I'm super pumped. Just got done with another workout. It's your boy CVMK33. Connect me on Instagram and on the business page of CVMK_Global. I get through it. I get that pump look. Best pre-workout on the market, www.cvnkglobal.store. So tell me about that experience.
So in the UK, like we're pretty diverse. Everyone's different backgrounds. I think now tech is getting more, they're accepting more people who, don't necessarily have a university degree. They weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They're hardworking grafters, and leadership are starting to recognize that that's enough. So where it was 5-10 years ago slightly difficult, like people of color or people from different backgrounds, it was slightly more difficult to break into tech. But because of the people brave enough, I'd say, to bring this to light and shed light on the situation that does happen, and it still does happen. Like, I personally haven't experienced like too much ignorance, or if I'm a woman or a woman of color, or I'm young, I haven't experienced too much like ignorance towards that, or made me feel like a noticeable kind of way. Sure. So that's that I'm lucky to be in that position, because not everyone else is in the same position. Other people can see blatant like disrespect, or even a certain, like in different countries, I won't specify, but speaking to a woman isn't like, they're like, oh, is your manager around? Or like, they want to speak to a male, they want to speak to a white collar up there in sales male majority of the time. But as a country, we're definitely adapting. It's so much more diverse. The companies are promoting it. There's like diversity officers now who like have to ensure that there's a certain percentage of each race and each background, and university degree, non-university degree, experience, no experience. So we're definitely getting better. It's not too noticeable in the workplaces these days. So we're on the right track. Hopefully it stays that way. If not, gets better.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So they've even made a focus for even the combined experiences, like having, hey, look, we have the kind of standardized educational, entry, and then the non, traditional entry into the workplace. That's amazing. Yeah. So I had this conversation. I had a guest on by the name of Scott Paulsen. We talked about differentiating yourselves, because to be in sales, people buy you before they buy the product. That's just God honest truth. It takes a lot to build a brand within a brand. I always say, Nike, the only reason why the NBA is as big as what it is because they had Michael Jordan, right? There was a brand within a brand. Nike attached itself to that brand, which made the business of basketball as a whole grow. How do you differentiate yourself? Like, why should someone respond, before we get into your methods, but how do you as a brand individual, say like, okay, so I'm getting this email from Shannon. I don't know who this company is. I don't know who this person is, but what makes you different that your subject matter expertise is worth that 30-minute Zoom call?
I try to be relatable. Like, my LinkedIn is an example. Like, I post funny memes, I post credible stuff. I might post like certain techniques that I've used, which works for me. So with a combination of just being relatable and a normal person, like, I'm not this unapproachable, I'm not going to help you, don't help me kind of person. I try to be as welcoming and fluid as possible, just to reflect my normal personality. I don't use crazy technical words in emails. I say cheers at the end. Like, my LinkedIn and my socials are all connected to my emails, so you can check me out. You can see I'm a real person. I post videos. I post every day. So being that social seller and relatable person in sales is how I try to where my majority of my success comes from, is social selling. So be a normal person, be yourself. And that comes across. It's always relatable to the other person if this is a natural conversation. Like, if I'm reading from a script, or if I'm copying and pasting 300 emails and seeing what sticks, it's unlikely. So if you just are that bit more personable and yourself, it goes a long way.
I like it. I totally agree. I don't like the scripting. I am a proponent of personalized communication You could tell when somebody, I get calls, it's so funny. This guy tried to sell to me. He's like, hey, Cody, can I have 27 seconds of your time? I'm like, the only reason I went through it because I've been on the receiving end, and I'm like, you know what? Karma is real. The answer is no, but I'll sit through this thing, right? So, just because I don't want that to happen to me, right? But you're right. So talk about methodology, because some people will push back, Shannon, and God knows, they'll be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Sending 5,000 emails a day, copying and pasting, just names, cold calling 300 people a day, script work, hit the phones heavy, always be closing. This is true and blue. What do you say to that person?
It's an old method. It's an ancient method, which it might work for certain industries. I haven't found much success, kind of just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. I am very specific with my outbounding and who I approach. I like people who speak on LinkedIn. They've got a detailed kind of summary of what they do and what their role is. And I keep an eye on their posts, what they're interacting with. And that will give me something to leverage when reaching out to them. Of course, not all the time will I get a response on the first go. Like, let's say 30% of my meetings come from persistence. Like, people appreciate persistence. And as long as it's not just, hey, did you see my email? I'm just checking in, wondering if you read. Like, that's not persistence. If I'm like over a 6-week period and my third outreach is, loved that LinkedIn post that you interacted with, I actually feel the exact same. Here's something else I thought you may like. A lot of the time when asking for a meeting, you kind of want to give something, and then 5 times out of 10, you'll get something in return, or they will bite. And even if it's a no, they'll give you feedback. They'll say, look, circle back next year. Great outbounding. Like, you got my attention. Well done. And then I know, okay, cool. That's something I'm going to use going forward. If you do a video, be very specific, make it quick and snappy, but direct and with an outcome, potential CTA at the end. Social selling, personalized emails, they're my go-to, but doing that on a sequented basis, is that a word? But like throughout a sequence, basically.
Yeah. Have you received I agree. I think the nuance and the creativity and the personalized approach is going to go a lot further than just throwing randomness right and seeing if it sticks. But you mentioned it depends on the industry, because you get in certain industries, certain companies, they say, okay, Shannon, that's great. You're okay. You're the cool new person, right? But we have a goal of $50 million, $100 million, and we need more, right? And I always feel like when there's pressure to expand, the default button gets switched on, right? So how do you deal with leadership that is saying, I need you to tackle this workbook of 1,000 accounts? Because there's no way you can be that personalized with 1,000. I mean, what you're talking about, even if you have the greatest technology in the world that kind of outlays the sequences, and you can, I understand. I know the tools out there. It's still a very precise process, and there's still kind of this manual, because when you do personalization, you have to figure out what goes in, what needs to be shared, what doesn't need to be shared, and that's time consuming. There's no way you can cover 1,000 contacts in a week. So how do you convey the message to leadership?
So in my leadership, or who I'm prospecting?
Your leadership, or just in general?
Yeah. So internally, we don't do things that isn't scalable. So we wouldn't go after 1,000 accounts unless it's over a series of time. And then I would just manage my time correctly, and I'd go through them. I'd add them all on LinkedIn. Those who bite, they're my first, or those who accept me, those who connect and interact with my content. Those are my first go-tos. So I'll always segment it to, who's responding just to my requests. And then I'll go and see who has the most to leverage. Like, do they post much on LinkedIn? Do they mention like what their company's after? Am I familiar with their company? Those are kind of my priority, my prioritized accounts. And then the lower hanging fruit, which, I don't know an awful lot about the industry, or I don't know enough about the person to even make something personalized. those ones, you can send a generic email, like slightly less generic, where they don't know that this has just been sent to 1,000 people, but generic enough that it's scalable. So there's loads of tech these days, though, that you can incorporate into your workflow that will allow you to reach that many people. You always filter that down anyway. You'll get bounces from email addresses, company, people no longer work in companies. So you'll be left with a decent amount, which then you'll prioritize accordingly. My message to management is, if you're going to give an SDR, BDR 1,000 counts and say, go for it, you need a bit more of a process for them to tackle those accounts. And you can't expect decent work to be produced or decent messaging to go across to them if that's the scale you want them to target.
I like it. I like it. You can't expect quality with that type of mass and what I would call undefined mass, right? Like there's no real thought process. It's just, these are potential players in this space. Nothing's been verified. Nothing's been researched. Let's go get a tiger, right? Kind of just doesn't work. No, you're right. You're right. So let's, I know we run out of time. I got about a couple more questions. Talk to us, how do you become great at this? What is your strategy? I mean, you mentioned it, you talked about social selling, but really dig into the weeds. Like, we want to know, Shannon's secret sauce, like when you open up your laptop, it's whatever you're doing early in the morning, you got your Keurig brewing, you got your coffee, right? I've recently switched to tea. I've become like this tea person. I don't know what's going on. This is a sign of age. But you're in the mode and you're like, okay, I got to do this. How do you do what you do?
How I do, I think first and foremost, you need to set yourself a goal for the week. So if I want to book 6 or 7 meetings by Friday, or I want an easy Friday, so by Thursday, I need to do 7 meetings. What's going to get me to that? So I would go through like a nurture pot, people who I've been speaking to on an ongoing basis. You will always be able to get something. If you've been interacting with someone, like most likely those people will, of course, if they're interested in your product, will accept the meeting. They'll go ahead. They'll go to the next stage. Me in general, I'd say after planning my day, planning my week, I start my research. I do a bit of reading. You do reading of the industry, just kind of getting your brain and your mind in the right mindset to go and speak and have these kind of, like, you're speaking to smart people. You need to have these quite intuitive conversations. So doing a bit of light reading is always good. Keeping keeping updated with the industry, watching podcasts and reading blogs. Those are all good things to get your week started. And then when it comes to your secret sauce is, like we mentioned, you don't want to go too big. You want 50 people, specific people who you've done your research on, and you're targeting them. If you say in your head, like, this isn't cold, this is a very warm lead to me because I've done my research, I know what they want, I'm reading what they want, I can see their company's their company numbers, and their company goal is to expand their B2B business this year, and I can help them. Therefore, alter everything to be specific to that prospect. So I find myself most successful when I have the information and I just word that correctly. These people get hundreds of emails or thousands a week. I don't know how many, but being able to cut through and clickbait, put something in subject line. I throw loads of different things to see what works, and then I run with a successful subject line. As long as I'm getting through to them, that's the first step. It's whether they then read it, invest in tech, which can highlight whether they've opened something. And then, if they've gone back to it, like I've had funny emails, like I'll write a poem, I'll do a playlist, I'll do some funky things. It's got the wordings there, but they're like, they appreciate the creativity that you've gone through. And they're like, hey, this girl sounds fun. What are you even talking about? I want to hear more. And they tend to give you time based on like creativity, persistence. And that is where even my team as well, my team's super good. We all have our different little ways of prospecting, and we're all successful in the creativity side. So your secret sauce should be something you're good at, it's scalable, and it's funny. It brings some humor, it brings some smiles to the email.
I feel like trash, man. I was listening. I was like, what? I was like, you like a playlist? I thought I was gonna create. I'm like a playlist. I feel so trash right now. I'm like, man, I need to step my game up. You know, like I like to think that I'm actually pretty decent at this, but wow. That is an eye opener. The due diligence that you give to each company and each person is special, and almost I don't want to say, I don't know if foreign is the right word, but it's
different.
It's different because, and now transparent moment, right?
Yeah,
I still do. I think I'm pretty personal. I really try not to be random. I try not to rely on, company email templates, and I don't ever use a script. And I'm sorry, if my boss is listening. Yeah, I'll be 100%. I don't do it. Hey, because I've been successful without it. I don't want to be. Hey, 20. You can say what you want. Anybody knows. Nobody wants to take that phone call. It's an annoying thing. It sounds awkward. It doesn't sound natural. Yeah, and it puts the wall up.
Really calling from, like, you don't even need the script, and you start reading it, sound robotic. So
you do.
All the time, you can freestyle things. You know what your value prop is.
And plus, I feel like I can gauge within 3 seconds. This person's gonna listen to me. I'm gonna either get cussed out, or this person's like, you know what, Cody? Like, one time I've been told no, but because I know how to kind of do that tango, they're like, Cody, that was good, but the answer is still no. Stop playing, and I'm okay with it. But it's really hard to give a contact that much energy when I have a million miles to travel, right? Yeah. So, and I admit, and this is me speaking professionally, I think sometimes I sacrifice the quality of my message, the quality of my outreach, because the quantity is so vast. Like, there's so much to do that, every second of the day is segmented. Every minute, I need to be accounted for doing this, and this, to the point that, I'll take this to go back and say, to retool, hey, look, I need to slow down. And just, even if I reduce it to like 20, for the week, because I have these certain goals, I think is a better process. I like it. Last question, and I'm done. Shannon, I'll let you off the hook. I know you've given me the space. I appreciate you so much.
No, I love it.
What is, right? Like, you talk about SDR work and whatnot. What is the future of sales? And before you answer that, let me layer it. I've been at a few organizations. I almost said many, but a few organizations, and I have not seen the perfect balance between the evolution of talent. Best way to say it. That is the best way to say it. Okay. And so an SDR who is really amazing becomes an AE and major key, however the company labels these, titles that are arbitrary. They all do the same thing. It just depends on the volume of the account that they work, right? So, and then they lose that creativity because now they're dealing with the pressures of the BDR work, which is, volume. It's not quality, it's value, right? So what is, because Scott, I'll take Scott, who I mentioned earlier, said the future of sales is mercenary work. Basically, you will become hired guns for these organizations. We'll be assigned to projects and we'll be paid based off of the project, acquisition, first retaining the talent, then the completion of the project. And we'll work for 10, 15 companies within a year, project by project at a, declared rate. So it's like an entrepreneurship, on steroids, right? So for you, Shannon, what do you see as the future of sales?
So future for my personal sales, so I don't want the promotion to AE route. So I want to continue leading SDRs to keep being creative and keeping this creativity in in their workflows and processes. If I could also, train AEs to keep that as well. And I know it's difficult when you've got a target on your back,
Right.
but you'll be surprised how tangible or closer you are to that target if you keep your creativity, if you keep on top of still prospecting, still building your own pipeline, because that's still, I mean, if you don't get somewhere of said prospect, like you've got 10 backlogged because you continued your prospecting, you held on to your creativity, you held on to everything you learned as an SDR, you kept, and you're now the most successful in your team because you're still doing all the things that got you into that place. So as long as the future of sales allows new routes and suggestions that open to these new ways of selling, and they're not just the typical pick up the phone, sell, never stop selling, that's the only way. Don't email, just forget about it. Don't follow up, forget about it. If you're only interested in trying to book and not nurture these people, it's probably, unless you've got some amazing product where it's all inbound leads, which your product's probably amazing, but it's very hard to get unlimited inbound leads. So as long as you keep the mentality of still being able to prospect and creatively prospect, you'll be in the right place. So yeah, the future of sales, I know the younger generation is creeping up, and I think they're holding on to this making sales fun again, or I don't know how fun it used to be, but making sales more fun and more interactive and more normal, like personable. And we're all people here. It was just one professional speaking with another. People are busy. They're not going to be able to take every meeting, of course, but as long as company morals and values and leadership all are aligned, there shouldn't be a problem.
That makes sense. Shannon, if people wanted to reach out to you, say, look, we did what you do, it's amazing. We dig the thought leadership that you're providing. How can they connect with you?
LinkedIn is the best way. I accept everyone. Always up for a chat. Anything, and if I can offer anything, I'm happy to. And I'm a big networker, so I'm all into it. And networking events as well. You will most likely catch me there in London, unfortunately.
Y'all connect with Shannon on LinkedIn. And if you want to keep seeing amazing talent, amazing leaders, amazing thought leaders, you know what you got to do. The best business tainment podcast out there. I was just thinking, I was like, man, I need to change my screen. I got this new graphic flyer and everything. I haven't even updated y'all. You know what you got to do. CV_K on YouTube, Instagram at CVMK_global, CVMK global, TikTok, www.cvmkglobal. As you see, this is a reoccurring thing, .store. That's where the best stuff is. And until next time, guys, thanks.